All right, good evening, everyone. I'm Dr. Joaquin Acosta, your guide and host for tonight's Know Your Pharmacist live stream. As the CEO of Farm True and a passionate advocate for proactive health, I'm here to connect you with the heart of healthcare innovation. Tonight, we're not just sharing information, we're building a community, a collaboration of the minds and hearts striving for greater tomorrow. Let's embark on a journey together, exploring the fascinating realms of health, technology, and emotional well-being. We're diving deep into topics like the groundbreaking approach to statin self-selection, bill that could transform government communication, and the intriguing debate around decaf coffee safety. With our blend of cutting edge talk and insightful herbal wellness corners, we'll unveil truths, debunk myths, and brainstorm solutions. As we navigate these waters, remember, we're in this together. Your thoughts, your questions, they're vital. They fuel the quest for understanding and betterment. Imagine a world where every individual is empowered with knowledge, where every decision is informed, every step towards health is a confident stride forward. That's the world we're creating right here every time we meet. So are you ready to be captivated, educated, and inspired? Let's turn curiosity into knowledge, challenges into triumph, and dreams into reality. Welcome to Know Your Pharmacist, where every moment is an opportunity to grow and thrive together. Let's make tonight's journey one to remember. Jumping right on in. Get the show started. Welcome to the late night special. Here we are. Delilah. All right, Pharmacist Frontline. Interesting stuff coming out today. Self-selection for statins appearing to be safe and perhaps even effective. So take a look at this, guys. I see a lot of back and forth when it comes to statins. Do statins increase the risk of dementia? Are statins useful? Are they not? Right. Obviously, the majority of the data right now points that in terms of reducing that 10-year cardiovascular risk, statins, are one of the key contributors there. But check out this one. So the vast majority of people correctly identified their own need for a statin using a web tool and took the drug appropriately without a prescription, according to an actual study supporting the safety of approval for non-prescription use. Self-selection to take 5 milligram rosuvastatin, brand name Crestor, based on the app's advice, matched clinician selection in 90.7% of the cases, and 98.1% used the statin correctly. According to Dr. Stephen Nissen of the Cleveland Clinic, reported at the American College of Cardiology annual meeting. Findings also appeared in the Journal of American College of Cardiology. The participants' LDL cholesterol dropped by 35.5% at 6 months from baseline of an average of 140 milligrams per deciliter. If the FDA were to approve non-prescription use and individuals continued on their statin longer term, such improvements in cholesterol would be expected to reduce the risk of mortality and morbidity from atherosclerotic disease by more than 20%, Nissan noted at an ACC press conference. With less than half of eligible primary prevention patients receiving statins, innovative approaches to close this treatment gap are needed. Told attendees at the late-breaking clinical trial session, and the use of a web app to qualify for a non-prescription statin has the potential to expand access and reduce subsequent major cardiovascular events. Findings parallel those from a 2021 study by the same group, showing that a 96% concordance between the app and physicians, which was welcome news after 5 prior attempts to make various statins available without prescription had failed, largely over inability to get the only right patients on the drug. Most of them didn't even get to an FDA panel because they already failed in early development, Nissen told MedPage Today. They use the drug facts label that you get when you buy something over the counter, and that doesn't work. So he chalked up the success of the non-prescription strategy for rosuvastatin to the use of the web app, because we've got the technology now. So the web app being developed under an FDA pathway for software as a medical device to determine eligibility for statin. It calculates the 10-year atherosclerotic cardiovascular risk, or ASCVD, risk score with the pooled cohort equation and the proposed drug facts label for non-prescription rosuvastatin. Users also input cholesterol levels, concomitant medications, and medical history relevant cardiovascular diseases and events. Individuals deemed eligible get an OK to use message. Those with possible contraindications or who need a high-intensity statin are told to ask a doctor or do not use. So the TACTIC study included 1,196 participants, average age 63 years old, and 39.6% women who completed the web app assessment and got the okay to use statins or confirmed they had a doctor about the use. Most of the people who completed the web app assessment got a do not use message and were not enrolled. That was 10,332 of the 12,624. Those who worked for a healthcare related company or who had ever been employed as a healthcare professional were also excluded. Study participants could set up an account and buy up to a 90-day supply of a 5 milligram daily rosuvastatin treatment directly to their home, and participants were then interviewed by a clinician blinded to app assessments who determined if they met criteria for statin therapy. During the 6-month study phase, patients had to take an abbreviated web app assessment to reorder medicine and get their LDL cholesterol retested. Afterward, they had a final virtual visit to be interviewed by a clinician for a determination of appropriateness of use. So ACC session study discussant Thomas M. Maddox of the Washington University of School of Medicine in St. Louis raised several concerns. About 3/4 of the study population had a college education, and only 4% of the patients had limited literacy. So are we really reaching that 50% of eligible, statin eligible non-users, which I would imagine is overrepresented in terms of less education and less literacy, he persisted. Also, individuals need to enter cholesterol values to complete the assessment. So the platform does not put an unnecessary degree of burden on the patient to collect information, speaking to potential access issues. They also need some fluency in their medical history. Do they know they have artery disease or other things that are part of the screening platform? All good points when you do think of things like med tech in the future, right? And healthcare access using one-on-one with the computer, right? Are those questions being assessed properly? So anyways, equity is also a concern, as patients who don't use digital information tools wouldn't be able to access the drug. Neeson noted that a finger prick blood test for cholesterol at a pharmacy can provide the information needed to complete the section of the assessment. However, he agreed, well, a step in the right direction, it by no means can eliminate the problem. We're really not getting the job done with primary prevention, and our hope would be that, if this is approved by a regulatory agency, that it would allow patients to do at least some of them to be treated. So you look at that, it's very important. Lots of limitations there of the study, but it begs a lot of questions, right? First of all, on the healthcare provider side, whether you work for a big corporation and you're in the pharmacy, or even, a physician, especially, you bill Medicare, then you understand what the Medicare 5-star ratings are. They are really targeting, type 2 diabetes, statin therapy with type 2 diabetes, hypertension, some of the big disease states that if you don't get them all caught up, in the former, the latter equals, yes, plenty of rehospitalizations and completely increased healthcare costs for the entire healthcare system. So again, they're trying to make providers, pharmacists, physicians more responsible towards getting, patients who are type 2 diabetics, so on and so forth, on statin therapy, right? And of course, assessing other metrics as well. But the insurance companies have already started looking at that to try to save some money on the back end, and they punish, medical providers for pretty much having patients that are non-adherent to their medications. If they're not adherent to their, statins or hypertension medications, or if they're not even on statins, right, literally get penalized. And if you're not a 5-star Medicare, participant as a provider, every star less than 5, you're getting less reimbursements back for the services that you provide. So, they're trying to sweeten the deal, and they've been trying to do this for about, closing in on the last 8 years, right? So this is not quite new in terms of, incentivizing the pool and trying to get people on statin medications, because yes, if you have poorly managed type 2 diabetes, if you have poorly managed hypertension, you're a smoker, you're doing all these things, your 10-year risk of having a cardiovascular event is ridiculous. A statin, even being on that daily, can definitely help lower that 10-year risk. However, we really do look at, if you're not adherent to pretty much everything else, what is going to make you adherent to the statins? So there's a lot of other issues that you really have to kind of tackle there. And again, there's a little bit of a counterculture too in medicine right now against statins, especially in the psychiatric field, right? Especially in your older adults field, trying to weigh the risk benefit of statins in those populations, and considering that statins could, have some correlation with dementia, right? Yesterday we talked about anticholinergics in our Pharmacist Frontline segment, aka things like over-the-counter such as Benadryl, Dramamine, Unisom. Those are big time stage 3, dementia-causing anticholinergics that are easily accessible over the counter. So when you do think about, the range of medications that can lead to increased dementia, those medications, maybe Benadryl, right, can help stop an allergic reaction. But other than that, is it really helping a 10-year risk for cardiovascular events and things like that? So you do weigh the risk benefits, So anyways, if you have any questions as to whether you should be on a statin or not, of course, hit me up, ask your doctor, take a look at your labs. If you're a type 2 diabetic and you're not on a statin, why aren't you on that statin? Ask yourself, right? Ask your medical provider, and we'll get that taken care of. So that's our Pharmacist Frontline segment. Hope to intrigue a little bit of thought there and kind of try to get people, hopefully a little curious about bettering their health and asking the right question. The late night special. All right, let's move on to the next segment. Interesting stuff here too. The United States Senate proposing a bill to make Zoom and Teams work together. So for those of you guys who are used to work conferences, how you may have to have access to all kinds of different apps, it feels like, to log in and be able to join somebody's webinar or join somebody's conference, right? It definitely could be, a little frustrating at times. Well, the United States Senate has now proposed a bill aimed at improving the security and interoperability of the unified communications and collaborations platforms used by the federal government. Spearheaded by U.S. Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon, the Secure and Interoperable Government Collaboration Technology Act mandates strict cybersecurity measures and interoperability standards for platforms used by governments such as Zoom and Teams. So the bill requires Zoom and Teams to work together. The proposed bill underscored the necessity for government tools to seamlessly communicate with each other regardless of their providers. This initiative aims to foster collaboration among agencies while fortifying cybersecurity measures. It includes the adoption of end-to-end encryption protocols, and Senator Wyden emphasized the significance of ensuring government communications remain shielded from foreign surveillance. The government can ensure it by implementing encryption technologies across all major collaboration platforms. And furthermore, the bill addresses to the evolving landscape of federal record-keeping regulations by mandating compliance enforcement within collaboration software. Highlights the importance of maintaining official records within dynamic collaboration environments, and examples of these include video conferencing, text messaging, and live document editing platforms. So, one of the key provisions of the bill tasks the General Services Administration with compiling a comprehensive inventory of the UC and collaboration technology tools utilized by the federal government. The inventory encompasses a wide array of functionalities, including video conferencing, file sharing, scheduling, and document editing capabilities. Subsequently, the National Institute of Standards and Technology will establish interoperability standards to facilitate seamless communication across diverse platforms. It also prioritizes the integration of end-to-end encryption to safeguard sensitive government communications. So interesting, right? So UC&C businesses will be granted a 4-year grace period to align their tools such as Zoom and Teams with federal procurement requirements. It should ensure compliance with the established standards, and additionally, a joint working group comprised of the GSA and Office of Management and Budget will conduct periodic evaluations of government technology usage. Concurrently, the Department of Homeland Security will conduct cybersecurity assessments to ascertain the resilience of collaboration tools against potential threats. Very interesting overall, right? What do you guys think of that? Would you like to see a better integration, between things such as Teams and Zoom? I could definitely go for something like that, but as somebody who really wants to see some unified healthcare technology when it comes to insurance and, any sort of e-health system, whether it's e-prescribing, your pharmacy operating software, hospital systems in general, labs, that would be awesome. That is my dream. All that should talk. All that should be mandated to integrate so that people can actually know their health statuses at one time. The doctor signs into, some unified health platform where you can see Joe Schmo's labs from 2 years ago or from 2 months ago, wherever they were, whoever prescribed them, at whatever clinic. right? Because medical providers should be able to make the best real-time decisions in real time without having to sit there and collect incomplete chunks of data and then go from there, right? If especially when you can consider how much and how often doctors and healthcare providers rotate from clinic to clinic, rotate with their residents, depending on the primary care and everything like that. Your healthcare files a lot of the time get lost, or that chain of communication just gets absolutely turns into the telephone game, right? And we all know what the telephone game turns into, especially when providers are absolutely busy up to their heads and stuff to do. It just means nobody ends up getting the best quality of care. So anyways, I feel like this is a step in the right direction. I don't know how Zoom and Teams would feel, independently, and if they feel this takes away some of their individualism to whatever degree business and capitalism are allowed to maintain that. But a lot of food for thought there for sure, especially as we do look at how not only it becomes a safety hazard, but an efficiency hazard as well, which kind of all overlaps. And so we'll look at jumping on into our Enlightenment Hour, guys. Interesting one. So this was kind of headlines late last week. Decaf coffee, is it safe to drink? Well, according to recent voices of experts, for people avoiding caffeine, decaf coffee seems like a harmless option, but some health advocacy groups that argue otherwise are petitioning the United States Food and Drug Administration to ban a key chemical involved in the decaffeination process due to cancer concerns, which is methylene chloride, a colorless liquid that's used in certain industrial processes, including paint stripping, pharmaceutical manufacturing, paint remover manufacturing, metal cleaning, and degreasing. According to the Occupational Safety and Health Administration, methylene chloride has been long known to be a carcinogen, designated as such by the National Institutes of Health's National Toxicology Program, the Environmental Protection Agency, and the World Health Organization, said Dr. Martin Doa, Senior Director of Chemical Policy for the Environmental Defense Fund, one of five groups and individuals behind two food and color additive petitions sent to the FDA in November. So the FDA filed the petitions to its docket for consideration on December 21st and accepted public comments on the filing notice through March 11th. In addition to being carcinogenic, methylene chloride can cause other health harms, such as liver toxicity and at higher exposures, neurological effects, and in some cases, even death. Joe added via email, these risks are in the context of an external acute exposure to high levels of the chemical or ingestion of the chemical on its own, according to the United States Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. The toxicity of the chemical led the EPA to ban its sale of paint stripper in 2019. In 2023, the agency proposed a ban of its sale for other consumer uses and many industrial and commercial uses. But food uses regulated by the FDA under the Federal Food, Drug, and Cosmetic Act remain. So the state assembly in California, which has one of the largest economies in the world, often influencing the rest of the nation, recently introduced a bill to ban methylene chloride in the decaffeination process. The Environmental Defense Fund and its co-petitioners argue that by allowing methylene chloride in food, the FDA has been disregarding a 66-year-old addition to the federal act called the Delaney Clause, which requires the FDA to ban food additives proven to cause or induce cancer when ingested by human or animals. Thus, these chemicals categorically cannot and should not be deemed safe. So the FDA has said it's currently reviewing the petitions, but does not comment on them while they're under the review. Anyways, what does experts say? Well, the FDA has one regulation allowing for the use of methylene chloride as a solvent to decaffeinate coffee, stipulating that residues of methylene chloride must not exceed 10 parts per million or 0.001% in decaffeinated roasted coffee and in decaffeinated soluble coffee extract. We know the FDA right now is kind of hurting when it comes to benzoyl peroxide face wash and the benzene constituents in there, which can get absolutely increased when benzoyl peroxide face wash is left in a hot car, for instance, right? And it could really leak out into the air and have carcinogenic levels of benzene in the air, which is crazy. So you just look at, overall, what the heck is going on? If anybody drink decaf drinks, their whole life or anything like that? Anybody have any experience with decaf drinks from cancer? anecdotally. Otherwise, I'd like to see somebody out there advocating for better health and safer, processes in terms of our manufacturing. And so decaffeinating coffee, is it worth skipping the caffeine? Food for thought, or coffee for thought. I love a good jolt of caffeine, from coffee. Definitely. I'm sure many people do. But I'd say if you're double thinking it, decaf coffee, might as well drink paint thinner. Just kidding. But are we? So, food for thought in the Enlightenment Hour. Who knows? Perhaps shy away from decaf coffee until the FDA actually makes a better statement. The state of California took a strong stance on it. Will the rest of the country follow? All food for thought, but segueing perfectly into our Herbal Wellness Corner segment brought to you by High Horse Cannabis Company, guys. Now, this is me about to dissect an opinion here that I feel is absolutely horrendous. Okay? So as the 2023 Cannabis Advocate of the Year, here in New Mexico, deemed by Purple Magazine, thank you very much. This is very interesting here from Dr. Srivastava out of The Guardian. Now, just looking at a lot of other articles out of The Guardian is absolutely a very, very biased journal. Fearless independent journalism funded by readers. In my humble opinion, this is funded by perhaps big companies lobbying against things that want to see strong headlines out to make people, start shying away from things such as traditional cancer treatment for the last 60 plus years, where things like cannabis only get just amounts of anecdotal evidence. And, this is really the ugliness of this article. Sorry, Dr. Srivastava. I want to draw a little mustache on your face here because you just bother me for this article. That's my immature comment of the day. Anyways, cannabis is not a treatment, let alone for cancer, according to this doctor. Whether or not, she was just paid to write this or not, I just think it's ridiculous. So she's saying it's not a substitute for chemotherapy and can cause significant side effects. Interesting, right? And I'm not even gonna read the article, guys. I'm going to literally just read these insane headlines. Cannabis is associated with significant side effects. The body absorbs about 10% of oral and 30% of inhaled cannabis. The psychoactive effects of inhaled cannabis can occur within seconds, while oral cannabis can take up to 2 hours to work. And acute side effects include sedation, euphoria, dizziness, vertigo, mood changes, and hallucination. Long-term toxicity can affect the liver, heart, and brain with potential drug interactions, but we don't have evidence-based answers about which ones. Meanwhile, every cannabis user and prescriber must be aware of the pitfalls. Guys, there's not a lot of huge liver toxicity when it comes to cannabis. These are like literally insane amount of high potent doses that it takes to even really trigger any amount of a hepatotoxic response, aka any amount of liver consumption of cannabinoids. Guys, and when you look at cannabis is not the cure for cancer. Of course it's not. That's not what we're getting at. Cannabis is for the side effects of cancer treatment, which aka cannabis may slightly improve nausea and sleep. She even acknowledges it here. It doesn't reduce pain. Bullshit. I'm literally, it does reduce pain. And I have talked to many cancer patients who have used cannabis before, and it was the only thing that worked. Trying steroids? Oh no. High dose dexamethasone? BS. Prednisone? BS. You talk about the long-term effects of those kinds of things? Ridiculous. Guys, cannabis absolutely helps for improving quality of life. If you can improve nausea, sleep, and reduce some pain, guys, in terms of cancer therapy, those little minor improvements can be major, right? Talking to somebody today, a patient of mine came in to buy 15 grams of Rick Simpson oil, right? And we were talking about his pancreatic cancer and how since he has been using the Rick Simpson oil in suppositories, he has gotten his quality of life back. He took steroids for about a day, 1 day, and couldn't even manage it. His doctor has approved the fact that he is using Rick Simpson oil with his oral cancer therapy medication now. He had the big guns of the 5-fluorouracil before, got off of it, and he has been doing better. He also is introducing other things such as infrared therapy. He has a couple of other things that are great going on. He's looking at his diet among many things. But guys, you look at the options there for cancer patients. So if you're talking about opioids, no. And you're talking about steroids, no. Those reduce quality of life and degrade the body much, much faster than the healing therapeutic effects of cannabis. It does not benefit appetite or weight. Give me a break. Guys, dronabinol. It's an FDA-approved synthetic cannabinoid of THC, approved for anorexia and cachexia associated with HIV and AIDS. Not necessarily cross-approved for cancer, but HIV and AIDS, when you're talking about the amount of hunger and weight loss that are happening there, or lack of hunger, lack thereof, it's a big deal. You need to get people to eat again, right? And you need to get them feeling good about eating again. So this is the other thing I would possibly acknowledge here. The effect of cannabis on anxiety and depression is unclear. And I would say that is true because cannabis is bidirectional. It can go both ways for different types of people, right? And when you look at it, it can exacerbate, especially at higher doses of THC, anxiety or depression or manic effects. It can, right? But on the other hand, it can induce a very light, nice state of relaxation, blissfulness, help with sleep, help stay asleep, keep you off of all of those other ridiculous drugs. And you talk about the gastrointestinal side effects of big radiation and big therapy there, guys. This isn't something that steroids are just the only game changer for. Just because we don't know a lot about cannabis and cancer and the research thereof, suppressed because why? Because articles like this, which have really, really triggering headlines, some really relatively triggering sub-headlines that even still acknowledge the potentials, that out there doing every single day because their doctors don't want to talk to them about it and they oftentimes end up on their own, or they're working with their doctor a little bit and letting them know how they're doing on their sides, right? And, because we don't have a giant cohort of data, doctors like Dr. Ranjana Srivastava can write ridiculous articles like this for The Guardian, which only suppress possible great therapy for patients who really need it going forward. Guys, you look at the traditional side effects from some of the medications from cancer that are supposed to help with the side effects. Those can make people just want to die in and of themselves. Cannabis does not do that. This is truth. This doctor, she just must be bought. That is the only thing I can say. Don't believe articles like this. Completely reject this. And just because she can claim that there's not a lot of research out there and that she says the side effects from cannabis can be euphoria, dizziness, significant side effects, vertigo, mood changes, hallucination, sedation. So 3 out of the 6 significant side effects that she noted here, perhaps, might just be the wanted and desired effects, from cannabis therapy alongside conventional chemotherapy. All right. So now that I'm on my soapbox, I just realized the little ticker point here is off. Anyways, title of the segment is Cannabis and Cancer, Separating Myths from Facts. Don't forget, guys, I'm going to be out at the High Horse block parties Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Come talk to me. Otherwise, catch me downtown, message me online. You already know. Much love, but I'm passionate and also, I have no tolerance. I'm allergic to the BS here. I am allergic. Dose me up with an EpiPen because this is causing a severe allergy. And that's all I have to say. I would love to debate this with her. Anyways, moving on from my saltiness to talking about the Southern New Mexico Giving Day on April 26, 2024, 24-hour online charity fundraiser brought by the Southern New Mexico Diabetes Outreach. A pretty cool April 26. If you can join and give, keep this in mind. I'll probably be reposting this again, but in our community spotlight brought to you by the Big Chicken Farm guys, we want to definitely support the Southern Diabetes Outreach, paving the way for a healthier future, helping diabetics with healthcare access, whether it's diet, education, healthcare providers. There's a lot going on. This group is very, very active. This is one of the real groups in Southern New Mexico that is actually making a difference at something that is a big deal plaguing Doña County, the state of New Mexico, in rapid proportion. So we need a lot of education here. We need a lot of public health awareness. And if you really want to consider giving to an organization that is putting on and doing the things right, consider this on the 26th. All right, so last thing, guys, in our Men's Health Minute brought to you by Vado Speedway Park. Interesting enough here, talking about how men feel love, right? Men, women, tell me whether you agree with this or not, but interesting enough to make some questions here. So men need romance too. According to a couples therapist, often asked the question by people hoping to strengthen their connection with their most important guy. She was recently interviewed for a feature in fatherly.com on how men need romance just as much of their lives as women. Happy to do it because she's glad that men's issues, particularly when it comes to healthy relationships, are getting more attention in the media. As discussed with some of her male colleagues on a recent episode of Love, Happiness, and Success podcast, How to Understand Men, and another episode with researcher Andrew Reiner on the secret desire for emotional intimacy in men, too often the emotional reality of men either goes unseen or is disregarded, which can create a bigger barrier to men becoming fully self-actualized or having the kinds of high-quality relationships that they deserve. In our experience, one of the main issues when it comes to men in relationships is that their feelings or emotional needs aren't often acknowledged or addressed. And one mistake often sees women make is assuming men should feel connected and romanced in the same way they do. Common misconception that men don't crave feelings of closeness, connection, and emotional intimacy just as women do. As a marriage counselor and couples therapist, she can't tell us how many poignant conversations she's had with lonely men who want nothing more than to feel connected to and loved by the most important woman in their life. And when they get the love and affection they crave, they're like plants being watered. It can be hard for many guys to put a voice on how they feel, and as a result, their partners don't fully understand them. It's talking about love languages, talking about gender-specific love languages, begs a lot of questions, right? Men and women experience love differently. There are differences in the way men and women feel connected and cared for, often having to do with their love languages. While there are no hard and fast rules that are true for all men, oftentimes men experience love through physical affection, quality time together, words of affirmation, whereas women are more likely to experience feelings of love through acts of service, words of affirmation, and also gifts. Another difference is that men have a higher need for novelty and excitement than women do. So, how to make a man feel good in plain language. Men often feel most loved by the women in their life when their partners hug them, kiss them, smile at them, and explicitly offer gratitude, praise, and words of affection. This is how to make a man feel good. Men also feel loved and connected through sexuality, often to a greater degree than women do. Whereas women often need to feel emotionally connected as a prelude to sexuality, and men often need to feel sexually connected before they can connect emotionally. Additionally, some men feel stronger feelings of attachment and connection where there's novelty and adventure in a relationship. So respect plus freedom equals love. In her experience, many men also love to feel respected and supported in the things that are most important to them. For some men, having partners who support them in pursuing their hobbies or interests outside of the relationship is a very meaningful way of feeling loved. It may sound paradoxical to love someone by setting them free, but many men feel an enormous amount of satisfaction in relationships where they're not just accepted, but prized for who and what they are. One mistake often seen is that women make is that men should feel connected and romance in the same way they do, and through conversation, time together, gift giving, etc. Leading women to feel rejected or frustrated when they try to show love, when they think their partner should experience it and it's not received well. It can lead to conflict or even worse, men withdrawing in their attempts to show love by protecting the relationship from conflict. One mistake, right? Women make is assuming men should feel connected and romance the way that they do. AKA, you look at it and women manage stress differently. And I know you can see the both sides of the coin here. Probably women that are like, or men that are like, and you get it, right? So, understanding, yourself probably be a lot better than, trying to understand somebody else and not knowing who you are. Just my personal opinion there. But, then you could probably help better communicate your needs, right? Anyways, men and women managing stress differently. One mistake often seeing in marriage, counseling couples that they make to each other is that they deal with stress in similar ways and often judge each other ruthlessly when they don't. For example, when men experience challenging life situations, they're more likely than women to internalize it. They sometimes withdraw, distract themselves, or get busy doing other things rather than talking about how they're feeling or even feeling what they're feeling. Women are more likely to externalize stress, meaning they feel all the feels and talk about it. They want to reach out for connection in difficult times, and you can see where it's headed. Well, a partner is stressed out. If one of them copes by withdrawing, the other one copes by talking. Both of them will feel like they're not getting what they need from each other. Women feel shut down, invalidated, or rejected by partners in the moments when they need them most. And at the same time, men often feel harassed to talk about things they don't want to or even know how to talk about, and then get criticized when they don't do it right. So anyways, breaks down. Treat others the way they want to be treated. The platinum rule of relationships. We taught that treat others the way we like to be treated. But the other way around there, platinum rule, treat them the way that they want to be treated. So if they don't know how they want to be treated, it's going to be hard for you to figure that out. But, you could probably perhaps maybe inquire, maybe do some of that self-work, figure it out for yourself first, and then might motivate your partner to figure it out for themselves. Or maybe you might just be better at picking it out afterwards. Who knows? But I think in our Men's Health Minute here, it's a worthy conversation habit to have. Right? It's easy to get caught up in the everyday shenanigans of life and, sit there and not understand what's going on, whether you're a man or a woman. And everybody definitely has different love languages. Maybe men and women tend to lean one way or another, but that doesn't mean that, you fall in any specific category. So lots of food for thought. Talk to your partner, talk to your loved ones. Think to yourself. Be happy, hopefully. Life is a learning process. Much love. That's it for tonight. The late night Delilah. Dr. Joaquin out.